It's the very beginning of January and I am at the plot in the park doing a couple of jobs. At the minute I'm going to clear these 2 beds because I am going to top them up with compost that I made earlier in the year, which hopefully has decomposed enough to give us a really good thick layer over both of these beds before planting them next year. So I've managed to clear both of these beds, well, as much as I can. They do still have a few leaves in, but I'm not honestly too bothered. And I'm going to top them up with some compost. Now, I've got a brilliant pile of leaves in here. They won't go to waste. I'm going to pop them on the communal leaf mould pile, which is on the opposite side of the site. And then next year, I should have some beautiful leaf mould to add to my beds. Getting the compost out is proving to be a little more difficult than I was hoping. It might be just because it's quite cold and it's been compacted. Obviously it's been sat there for a while, but I suspect it's to do with the fact that I found some creeping buttercup growing in through like the little door section at the front of the compost, which is a bit annoying because it'll mean that when I put it on the beds, I'm going to have to be looking out in the later on in the season for buttercup seedlings so that I can hoe them off and get them out really, really quickly. Okay, see if we can make this work. I'm actually pretty impressed with my first sort of foray into making compost. It's pretty crumbly. It's probably a little bit dry as well, but it's fine. It'll rain again soon enough. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so hard to get it out of that tub though, so I might have to think about next year probably turning it like again so that it's a little more aerated and I can get it out a little bit easier. When I got this plot at the sort of in March 2020, I think I kind of just went all out in terms of just getting stuff in the ground, sorting out which beds I could, like desperate to try and get stuff put in the ground as quickly as possible, particularly since I think I must have got the plot maybe 2 weeks before that first lockdown was announced, and I had no idea if I'd be able to come back to the plot at all. So I'm really grateful that I've been able to grow here this year. But coming up in 2021, I think I've sort of spent some time thinking about how to plan out my beds a lot better so that I'm growing stuff that actually fits this space better. I did try to grow a few sun-loving items, which really didn't work out at all here. The reality is it is shaded, and because we have that section of wildlife brambleness, it also means that I have to water here a bit more than I do at the other plot as well. So I think in the year coming up, what I'm really going to focus on is trying to grow salads throughout the whole year. So I'm going to start off by putting in some broad beans because I did really well here last year. So I've got some crimson flowered broad beans. To be honest, they don't taste any different at all. I just like them because they have purple flowers and they like brighten up the plot a bit right at the start of the year. And then I've got some spinach to go in. Last year I did in the small palette collar bed, I did perpetual spinach, and it actually did amazingly well. And I do really love it, but it's not great in salads. It's probably better as a spinach that you cook. So I'm going to try growing a different variety, Madania I think it's called, which is meant to be good for both baby salad leaves, but also if you leave it to grow on, you can get really good big leaves. So we're going to do that in the spring along with some pea shoots. Potatoes did really well here last year, so I'm going to do those again. I've picked a different variety, which I'm still waiting for, Vivaldi. They're meant to be good. They're second earlies. If I leave them in the ground, they should quite easily become sort of decent sized potatoes. I probably won't do that though, because I'll probably want the space for something else. I'm probably going to try leeks again. This year has not been great for leeks. But I think, once I start adding more fertility to the soil by topping up with compost, and, just carrying on, doing chop and drop with the comfrey and that kind of thing, that hopefully that fertility will grow over time. And eventually I'll be able to grow leeks that are in fact bigger than a pencil, but let's wait and see. So I am back home after about an hour and a half at the plot. It is a bit cold to be staying there for any longer, to be honest, without sort of like feeling like my feet are going to freeze and fall off. So yeah, just got those 2 beds done and I'm really happy with that. I think one of the things that I've learned this last year has just been that really got to approach an allotment space with a sort of slow and steady approach. I would love to get all of my list of jobs and all the changes done within a month and be ready to go and have this wonderful space. But the reality is that very rarely happens, does it? You need to invest in spaces where you want to grow. It takes time and that's just kind of how it is. But it is really lovely to be able to look back over the course of the year and sort of see the difference between that space when I started and how it is now, and being able to plan actually for the future as well, which is something that I've really enjoyed doing over the last month or so. So what I'm going to do now is share with you my plans for 2021. I spoke about them briefly before, but I'm just going to show you an app that I've been using to help me plan sort of like month by month what's coming up. I'm not going to do the whole year, but I will show you kind of like what I'm looking to do in the spring in that plot by the park. This is Veg Plotter. It's something I've been using for a couple of months. It's really helpful because it provides you with a great way to set up your plots. You can see here, you can pick like what paving you've got, you can pick fences and things. You can also set out exactly what beds you've got. And you can also choose loads of different vegetables and flowers to put in. It doesn't have everything you'd want, but it's still pretty good. And you can even say how you're putting them in, whether you've planted them before or sowed them earlier, or if you are putting them in the ground direct. And this is the Calderstones plot, which is plot in the park, so I can put in exactly the dimensions, in order to be able to utilise it really well. So this is January 2021, so this month. It's got leeks in, it's got the broad beans that I planted as a cover crop as well. So for each of my plots, I've got this as well, which lets me know when I need to sow, what I'm planting out and what I'm harvesting. To be honest, I also have that in paper, but it's still useful to have it to check on it when you're out and about as well. So I'm going to show you a couple of the other months, just so you can see what it's going to look like. February looks no different at all, obviously. I will be sowing things in February, but I won't be putting anything in the ground. So this is March, having cleared the broad beans, putting in parsnips and spinach that I talked about, as well as peas for shoots and some lettuce. And you can see the great thing on this is that you can also put in like how many of anything you're planting. You can put in when you're going to harvest them, what variety it is, that kind of thing, which is really helpful. So in April, I've got potatoes going in and ochre in that front small bed, as well as my very first planting of carrots. And you'll see that they've got like a little flag next to some of them, which just means that they are direct sown items. So here we go in May, I've got some Swiss chard in and also a few harvests starting. I know May's a little early for harvesting broad beans there on the right, but it is actually because I prefer them when they are a little bit immature. They're nicer in salads that way. So yeah, this is Veg Plotter. I'll put the details in the description below if you'd like to know a little bit more about it or have a go yourself. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed it and that you were as excited as I am for what 2021 might bring and how much the space at the park is going to change in that time. So please do stay tuned in so that you can see the rest of the journey. If you enjoy the content that I'm putting out, please do subscribe, press the like button, and I will see you next time.